Well, good morning, everybody. I am driving to work and some other things. And I've been listening to Jeff Foxworthy. I'm not a big stand-up comedian guy. I don't like watching a lot of stand-up comedian. And he was not being a stand-up comedian that day when I was listening to him. But Jeff Foxworthy, I have a lot of respect for. To be a stand-up comedian, for number one, that takes a lot of work. And you have to have skill and an ability to be able to make light of things that are serious. And he does a masterful job. I have respect for stand-up comedians. In general, I do. And I'm not trying to badmouth them. I don't find a lot of them funny per se. There's things they do that are funny, which is really what attracts you to comedy in the first place. Is even if it's not that funny, there's something in there that just cracks you up. And I think part of that, what cracks you up, is the fact that some of that funny stuff is also stuff that is relatable. So, the comedy I find funny is the slapstick, stupid humor that is just so stupid it's funny. And I've seen people freaking hammering away at something and hit their fingers. I've seen people hammer and it slips out of their hand and hits them in the head. I've seen people do something to be funny and it backfires. I've seen people go down steps and trip over them. Hilarious sometimes. Until it happens to you. Everybody, and then even after that, it can still be funny. As long as you don't break anything. I've done it. That's why I think it's so funny for me. Tripping down the stairs is freaking hilarious. I fell down. I was at a friend's house and it was dark. And the step was small and I wasn't quite familiar with his house yet. And I went down the stairs and my foot hits, slips right off. Kind of land awkward. I fall down. I scream out. They come to check on me and I'm just sitting there. They're like, "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine." My pride's hurt, my brain's hurt, everything about me hurts because I feel dumb. I did something stupid. It was hilariously funny. I was trying not to laugh. At the time I was hurt for a minute, and then I am walking home and walking out to my car and getting in, and I drove off. And on the way home, I just started laughing. It's freaking hilarious. It's so stupid. It made me laugh because I felt like such an idiot. But it was funny after the fact. Nothing got hurt, so it was funny. Somebody got hurt, obviously, it'd be different. They'd take me to the hospital, I'm sure. But I was fine. It was funny. It was stupidity on my part, because I like to see what I can do in the dark, and I don't like to turn on excess lights, because I like to think I'm better, I'm good enough where I can figure things out and not have to be in the light. And I can see in the dark enough where I can do things. Sometimes you can't. And I actually have a point for saying all this. Is I was listening to Jeff Foxworthy. He's a stand-up comedian, you might be a redneck and oh my gosh, some of that redneck stuff is stupid, but it's freaking hilarious. And it's true. You might be a redneck. You might be an idiot. You might be whatever wording you want to use. And I know I'm saying stupid and idiot because silly things are silly. Even if you're trying to be smart and being intelligent and you aren't, it can be downright hilariously funny. And it's great because God made us with a sense of humor. Jeff Foxworthy was talking and he was not doing a stand-up bit. He was actually talking about real life experience, about his experience, about how when God whispers, not yelling, not screaming, but whispering, we should run and do exactly what he says. And I think that's where I'm going with all this is, when I fell, I screamed. Everybody knew that I did something silly. And we all got a laugh out of it. But reality is, if I was in pain, there wouldn't be any laughing. It would be a silent which hospital? Where do we need to go? And I know they would have done it on the spot. I have no question about that. And there's a scripture that Jeff Foxworthy used, and he was talking about how he got associated with homeless people and how he got to be able to lead a small group because God whispered to do it. And I think with the hustle and bustle we have, God said that, there was a mighty wind and a big storm. Nothing was there. And there was a bunch of people working and a bunch of things happened and God wasn't there. And then there was silence and quiet. And God whispered. Yes, I'm paraphrasing. But God whispered. And you heard him. A still, silent voice in the wind. Samuel, when he was sleeping, he had God whisper to him, Samuel, where are you? And he went and he went to Isaiah, or I forget who the prophet was that he went, or the person prophesying at the time. But he went to him and said, what should I do? And he said, just say, God, I'm here. And God did, and God came back and said, Samuel. And he was in a deep sleep, and he woke up and he said, God, I'm here. What can I do for you? It wasn't loud, it wasn't boisterous, it was just a quiet little thing. Joseph had God talk to him in a dream. Abraham had an angel, and he was ready to fight, and the angel was calm and quiet. See, in our life, God doesn't just talk to us in whispers, and that he also makes it so we can find him the best in silence. It's funny how it says that in the Bible, you hear a thunderous storm, and you have anxiety and all this other stuff. But it's in the quiet, in the calm. You feel God, you see God, you know God. You don't feel him and see him when you're in a big storm. You go to him when you're in a storm. I love the song by Castor Crowns where it says, I will praise you in this storm. I know my videos are not flashy and exciting, but I want you to know that these are from my heart. These are what's on my mind and what I'm thinking and what I feel led to say. And again, I've said them numerous times, but it could be 10 people that I come across. It could be 150 people. It could be 1,000 on these videos. But the reality is the fact that it is what it is. People watch, they watch. They don't, they don't. I know in my own experience, I worked in a factory. I'm like, God, I need you here. He kept things calm. I know that I got to the point where I worked in a restaurant and things were hustle and bustle. Like, God, slow me down so I can get the hang of this, or slow me down so I can focus on what needs to be done and be able to get it done. Because I have a hard time focusing sometimes. I have ADHD. I found that out recently, which explains a lot of things. I've got hypertensive ADHD, so I'm always thinking of the best thing. I get bored easy. I want to move on to the next thing when I start something. Dad, sorry about that. That explains a lot, because when I'm on to something, I'm ready to go to the next thing. I'm out at work sometimes, and it's like, I'm ready to be done, and I just start. I mean, some of that's just work. You don't really want to work, but you do it because you want paid. But Dad knows all too well about that. With all the overtime that he did and all the things that he did for his family. I respect you, Dad. But, at work, it's like, God, be there. And you got storms and you have this. And I'm just like, God, I trust you. I depend on you. I believe in you. God says in the Bible that if you have the faith of a mustard seed, those things are so tiny that if you say to my name, it will happen. I've had 3 times now where I work outside. I want rain, but I don't want rain when I'm working. It's not really great. And if it's thunderstorming, I hate to be 2 hours away from home and then have to pack up everything and go. And I'm not saying this because I'm all that in a bag of chips and I'm this great Christian and I'm this great Christ follower, because I don't see myself as a Christian. I see myself as a Christ follower. I'm not religious, but I believe in Jesus. I'm not saved, but I am saved. I'm not caring if people know I've been baptized or not. I care that people see my fruits, my stuff that I do for other people, the stuff that I try to influence by what I do. I try to do things by action, and I'm me. I have my beliefs. Got my problems. And I do the best I can. And I'm also one of those that I don't depend on people. I try to do everything by myself. I have my own answers and have my own solutions. Again, Dad, I'm pretty sure you have that feeling too, but you've always had a wife that you loved, and the respect to you too, Mom. You guys have been there for each other and been there what you guys needed. And, but I'm out working, and a storm is brewing. It starts heavy downpour. I've had people with me. I've done it by myself, and I'm trying not to make a big to-do about it in front of people. And I'm like, God, I need to get this done. I'm 2 hours away. I need to get this done. You're starting to have it really downpour. God, in Jesus' name, I believe that you can hold off the rain until I'm done. You can do this because, God, I believe in you, and I believe in Jesus and the power of the mustard seed, that if you make it not rain for a couple hours so I can get my job done, I believe you will do that, because you will let me move a mountain if you choose to. If I say it in your name, and I believe the faith of a mustard seed, that mountain will move, that rain will stop, that boat will go across the ocean, my car will get me from point A to point B, regardless of everything is wrong with it. I believe. The faith of a mustard seed is all I need, but I believe with all my heart. I confess with my mouth that, Jesus, in your name, I can do this. But it's not me doing it. That's the key. I didn't do anything. I gave God a prayer. I said, God, I believe in you. I believe you will do this. And I laughed about it because I'm like, if it rains, it rains, I go home. But I don't want to go home today until my job is done. I am hired to do a job. I am hired to do a thing. And I am hired to get this done before it rains. The faith of a mustard seed, I'm not saying it loud, I'm whispering in my head, because people know I'm saved. The people that ride with me when I do my job, to help me out, they know I'm saved. They know I believe in God. But I'm not doing it for their glory so they can see God's glory in the fact that I'm not trying to show it off. I'm trying to get a job done. And I'm not scared to say, I had one guy with me, and I said, I gave, it was starting to rain. I said, I gave a little prayer. I hope it doesn't rain. If God chooses not to let it rain, then it's because of him. Not because I'm praying, not because of this or that, not because of my faith in the mustard seed. It's because God chose to fulfill my wish, or he chose to let it not rain, or whatever the case. It's not my decision. Clunk. But it's not my decision to do this, to help me out. I want to do this because I don't want to go home till the job's done. But if it rains heavy and it's thundering and lightning, I'm done. And I get to that point where I want to start, and where I do, and I do my job, and I'm outside, and the guy with me, and I'm doing it more for him than for me, because I'm doing the driving. I'm letting them do the outside work while my shoulder heals. And it got quiet because we're working. We're focusing. Their focus is on doing the job that they're supposed to do. My focus is on a map and going to the places I need to be. And their focus is on getting out, doing the job, getting back in. And the reality of it is, I'm driving home As soon as I'm done and we're like, we got what we wanted, we're going home. As soon as everything is done, we're packed up. As soon as we got the car, this is 3 times this has happened with this one guy. And he knows I gave a prayer. We both believe in God. And as soon as we got in the car, and we said we're done, we start going home, bam, the heavens blew up and it started raining like there's no tomorrow. 3 times. And there was another time with another person where I said the prayer in my head. I don't know where they were spiritually. We didn't really have that big of a conversation about spiritual things that day. I have with people. But as soon as we were done and we packed up and we got all in the car and we started driving home, and I have a friend that can attest that this is really what happened. It came down and it thundered and it was drenching. Like you couldn't see more than 5-10 feet in front of the car because it was coming down so heavy. Cars were pulled over, blinking lights are on. We're going 40 and a 55. We're going 55 on a 70 miles per hour highway. I mean, it was coming down. There was a car on one of those days that went into a gas station because it was raining and the guy slipped and he went right into the gas station. Maybe he was drunk, who knows. I mean, you had to be doing it at a certain speed and angle, and maybe you just didn't realize where he was at. I don't know. But the faith of a mustard seed, I had never thought I'd be able to say the day, and it almost makes me cry. Because I said, God, it's not my will, but yours. I didn't yell it. I didn't scream it. I didn't say it. I thought it in my head. I did my prayer in my head because I wanted God to know that I believed. And I said, not my will, but yours. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to say I'm that great Christian. Anybody who has a faith of a mustard seed can say, I want this to happen in Jesus' name. And if God chooses it, and that's the key, if God chooses it, it will happen. And it was a whisper. It was a voice in my head that I prayed. I'm just an average Joe. And no, I'm not saying that because my name's Joe. I'm saying I'm just an average person that just, for 3 times now over the past year, I have prayed with the faith that Jesus would do it if he chooses. And I said, God, it's not my will, it's yours. I said, God, if you choose for this to happen, it will happen. And I don't think it was my prayer. I think God just chose to let it happen. It wasn't time for it to rain, maybe, or not in that area. Whatever. I mean, I'm not taking credit for it because it's not credit. It's just amazing that the timing was perfect. I asked and God did it. For it says, when the 2 witnesses will come onto the earth, they will say, for those who have ears, let them hear. For those who have a mouth, let them speak. For those who know, let them know. It says in the and I was listening to another thing that today where it said in James, I think it was Ephesians 2:8-9. Said in Ephesians 2:8-9. For it's not by faith, or it's not by works that you are saved. It is by grace, by mercy of, the grace of God. You are saved because of his grace. There's nothing you can do to put you in heaven, but his grace will put you in heaven. For the faith of a mustard seed will put you in heaven. And it's not said with a big reaction. It is a still, quiet voice that usually speaks to us. When I was in school, I went to a Christian school when I was little. And when I was 6 years old, we had we went to chapel, or whatever it was called now. I don't know if I really remember. But he said, God does not want to see you in hell. I went to a church that was more fire and brimstone at the time, so the preaching was very black and white. And that's the kind of preaching I prefer, where it's straight to the face. I'd rather have somebody tell me something to my face than try to sugarcoat something. Because that's how I learn. I mean, it has to be to my face. Somebody tells me I'm doing something wrong and yells at me, and it makes me mad the way they talk to me. But you know what? That's the way I learn. I had a guy I worked with, and he said, if you don't do this, you're going to be fired. Everybody else is faster than you. And if you don't do it right, you're going to get fired. And a lot of people was looking at him, but that was the way he taught me. And I think he sensed that the more matter I got at him, the harder I work. The harder I work, the faster I'll learn that this is what we need to do to work. He said it in a way that made me understand. He said it in a way that made me want to do it that way. I'm kind of jumping all over, but it's the same thing. It's the quiet voice that helps you learn, to help you listen, to help you get it. I don't care if people think I'm Christian. I really don't. I want people to know that I'm praying for them. I want people to know that if they need somebody to talk to, I'm there. I wish I was better with my own kids sometimes. But we've sat there and we've had some quiet conversations. And I think that's when we impacted each other the most. I learned from her as much as she learns from me. And I know a lot of things. I'm old enough, I should know a lot of things. But if I'm not learning something, then I shouldn't be alive. We're always learning something. And the thing I want to point out to you is sometimes what we learn is the quiet things that we should already know. When you're having anxiety attacks or a panic attack, or you are uneasy about something, it's not always God talking to you. Sometimes there's a Satan in there talking to you. God will, when things are going right, and I've learned this the hard way sometimes, and I've learned this a long time ago, when you're at peace, when things are going good, when it's still and quiet and relaxing. Sometimes when you pray, you don't know what to say, so you just sit there and pray and you fall asleep, and then you feel bad because you fall asleep. In reality, it's God saying, relax in me. It doesn't say you always have to talk. It doesn't say you have to be awake. He just says, give me time. And I will give you rest. Sometimes that rest will be literal. Again, back to the hilarious thing. Sometimes that rest is literal. And I used to feel bad, and people's like, no, it's fine. And you know what? That's okay. God will give you peace. Peace that passes understanding. Scriptural. There's always people trying to argue about different things, and the reality is, I believe what the Bible says. Guys, I don't know if you're getting much out of this today. It's kind of different thoughts I've had on things, and I wanted to share. And this video is going way on longer than I intended. Maybe I won't ever share it. I don't know. But God is a compassionate, caring, loving God that gives you what you need and what you want. And that is a peace that you will have no matter what you do. For I can yell and I can scream it, but if God doesn't choose it, it's not going to happen. And that's fine. If I go 2.5 hours to go to work and it rains, I'm getting home that much faster. Or I'm getting a hotel that much faster, whatever I decide to do. But if God doesn't let it rain, and I can do my job and I can show God's glory, and me and my friend have talked about it, that was with me. He knows I did those prayers. also knows that I say, God, not my will, but yours. And that's the key. Anything that happens on this earth is God knows what's going to happen before it happens. And how do we have free will? We have free will because God lets us choose. Even though he might know, he still makes it and hopes we do the right thing. And we don't always do the right thing. You guys, like I said, it's been kind of thoughts on my mind. I wanted to share those today. You guys be blessed. I'll see you later. And I'll be praying for you guys.